7:45 in Trinidad and Tobago. Well, we started with cricket, and let's finish with cricket in our sporting edition on this Friday. The Nazi Cricket Academy is hosting its 5-day Christmas cricket camp. It has a holiday cricket camp in July, August as well, and also in the Christmas school vacation. This being the first week of the school vacation, concludes today at the Charlieville Recreation Ground. The participants are being taught firsthand by Jason Weaver, who's the high-performance manager at Kent County Cricket Club in England. He's been there since 2006. James is here this morning along with the Academy's Public Relations Officer, Chief Cook and Bottle Washer, Vijay Rahman, here with us as well. Very good morning to you both. Jason, unfortunately, we won't have the time to go into great detail about the Ashes series and the way that has gone so far. Maybe another time. But
I'm quite pleased about that. I'm glad we haven't got that much time on the Ashes.
I know you're delighted. But just on how this academy is going, how have you found the experience working with these youngsters?
It's been fantastic. I think the academy have given the opportunity. We've had about 30 to 40 youngsters to come down for five days, and the attitude of the coaches and more importantly the youngsters has been brilliant. They've got stuck in, they've worked hard. We've had one or two challenges with the weather. Yeah. I've been surprised how much rain you've had. It's like being back home, but not quite as cold. But yeah, it's been a great opportunity, and they've had 6 hours coaching a day. And as I said, the players have been fantastic. They've got stuck in, they've worked really hard, and we've passed on some key messages from certainly from a Kent point of view on what we're looking for in our best players. And
Vijay, how has it gone from an administrative point of view, the academy this time around?
It's been very well received, both by the parents and as the kids as well. They've been very enthusiastic. They've been very attentive, and I have to say they've been very disciplined, which is often challenging.
And as Jason mentioned, he might feel right at home in the rain, but in December we don't usually expect to get this amount of rainfall. How much has it hampered the work of the academy this time around?
Well, it has hampered it to an extent, but I would say it has been okay, because at the end of the day, it's not just practical cricket. We teach them theory as well. We also teach them discipline. So at the end of the day, it hasn't been that much affecting us.
Jason, 5 days might not seem to be enough to impart important guidelines and tips to youngsters. What are you able to do? What have you been doing over the previous 4 days?
Yeah, I think the big focus has been on the basics, really. So we've talked about technical aspects of the game, so what we're looking for in our best batters, our best bowlers, and we've helped them there. But one of the main messages has been making sure that the players realise that, as you said, we only have them for 5 days. So for them to take responsibility, to listen to the coaches, to have some coaching points that they need to work on, and the hard work is away from these sessions, away from these camps. And we say that to our guys in England. We have our best players for about 10 weeks during the winter, and we can help them improve, but the work that they do away from those sessions is most important. So for them taking responsibility for their learning, and going back to what you said before, the attitude of the boys has been fantastic.
And I'm sure you would have heard this discussion before about the risks of overcoaching and allowing natural talent to come to the fore. How do you balance that, especially when you're working with a young age group?
I think you're completely right. I think if it works, then you let the players go. There is a risk at times, and you see inexperienced coaches coaching for coach's sake. So if you've got a player that does something slightly different, a Malinga the Slinger, then you let them go, you know, because it's that individuality that is most important.
Or Vivrich just taking deliveries from outside the off-stump through mid-wicket. Exactly. If it works, it works.
Normally against England. Normally against England as well.
Indeed. You brought it up. Vijay, the last time you were here, Clive Lloyd was the key personality, former West Indies captain, needs no introduction, of course, in the game. Why is it important from your perspective to bring these personalities? A Clive Lloyd, now we have Jason Weaver with his vast experience at Kent, working at a top level in county cricket. Why is that important from your perspective to impart that on these youngsters?
Well, at the end of the day, these guys have the knowledge, they have the experience, they've been there, they've seen it, they've done it all. So the kind of knowledge and expertise they could impart on our youngsters is priceless. And
do you get the sense that there is still that desire to reach the top level with a lot of these youngsters, or are they trying all the reverse sweeps and dill scoops and so on because they want to play T20 cricket? What are you seeing from them?
Well, I see some kids who they come in and you could see that they actually won the test cricket
pattern. Basics,
basics, yes. But then I see a lot of them doing the dill scoop as well. I mean, it comes with it. I mean, that is what is on TV. So when they see Dilshan doing the dill scoop, or Kevin Peterson switching bat and doing internet over, they switch it. They will try to emulate, because those are their heroes. So that's what they see on TV. That's what they want to emulate. But at the end of the day, we want to tell them that yes, you could play those shots, but we wanted to get the basics as well.
Is that tough, Jason, to emphasize the basics when you're seeing, you know, young people are exposed to so much cricket, and T20 cricket especially. Does that present a challenge from a coaching point of view?
We have exactly the same back home in England, in the fact that the youngsters, they want to try all the shots and the scoops, etc., reverse sweeps, which is fantastic, and we want our young players to enjoy the game, watch what their role models are doing and have a go. But you're completely right, the best players do the basics very well, and they do the basics under pressure. So it is a balancing act at times, but cricket's about having fun, having enjoyment. So if you've got your tennis ball and your friend throwing it down and you're practicing that, then brilliant, let the players have a go.
Thankfully I've been able to save a couple of minutes for the Ashes, but before we even before we even before we even get to that, what's the setup like in England from not just the county point of view, because I know there's a concern about cricket in the schools, in the school environment in the UK, which might be a surprise to many of us given the success that England would have enjoyed in the very recent past, and even if you put aside the Ashes, they've been a dominant team for the better part of 5 or 6 years at least. What's the environment for cricket like in England at the moment?
I think there's a very clear pathway for our players to make it from playing at the age of 8 going through to England, and you're right, there is a big push on getting cricket in schools, and that's through a Chance to Shine project, which is a charity based. So the pathway is getting activity in schools, then those players going to clubs, the best players going to districts or area programs, and then onto the counties. And once you're in a county program, you get lots of support. So there is a good pathway and quite a simple structure to make it to the top. And what we say to our guys, you have to work very hard, you take responsibility for your learning, and obviously you've got to have that natural talent. So I think there's some key factors, but you're right, without the activity at the lower levels and the development, then you're not going to get the numbers coming through and the better players coming through.
So Jason, after all of that preamble, let's get to the real thing. What's going wrong with England? What from your perspective, is it a case of losing Jonathan Trott and some other issues? What has happened there?
I think Australia's always a difficult place to tour.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's always going to be a challenge. You mentioned Jonathan Trott. He was a key player for us at number 3, so he was a big loss. A couple of perhaps the better players haven't performed as well as they would like, but taking nothing away from Australia, they've got Clark, he's a fantastic player, Haddon's got runs, and Mitchell Johnson bowling at 90 plus miles an hour. I think he's been the difference at this stage. Is
it about almost sort of a burnout element, because it's not often that you get Ashes series back to back, one in England and now having to go to Australia? Would there be maybe the edge not being as sharp as it would normally be?
It's interesting, having read the newspapers before I left, there's definitely reports saying, are the players tired? How much international cricket there is? It seems very much back to back. So it's careful management. So I think having your test squad and your one-day squad and monitoring how much players play is something that's really important.
Indeed, I mean, no getting away from it. It's a very challenging environment now for international cricket. Lots of opportunities, yes, but indeed it's about finding that balancing act. And Vijay Rahman, before we conclude, what are you hearing from parents or even the children themselves? Do they really want to go on to the highest level? Do they want to play for the West Indies? Do they want to play IPL? What do you hear from either the parents or the children involved?
Well, a lot of them say they want to play for West Indies, but at the end of the day, I mean, you know how kids are these days. They see in the IPL, they see in the money, they see in the glitz, the glamour, the cheerleaders, the big crowds. I mean, unfortunately, West Indies has been playing so well. My heart hurts for that. I'm sure we all, our hearts hurt for that. And when they see the crowds in the Oval for when West Indies playing Test cricket, it's very bare. When they look at when India are playing in the IPL, or it's big crowds. So they look at that. But at the end of the day, I believe that their heart still belongs to the West Indies. I really believe so. But the head have the money. They have exactly the money. So the IPL, that's where the IPL comes in.
It's always interesting that debate as it continues. Well, congratulations once again on another successful program with the Cricket Academy, which wraps up today. Jason Weaver, thanks very much for your own contribution. Good to get your perspectives as well on the youngsters you've worked with and on the Ashes as well. Let's see how it goes for the remaining Test matches, the Boxing Day Test in Melbourne, and the New Year's Test in Sydney that is to come. So we wrap up with first going to the news, and then I'll be back to conclude our program this morning.
It's Christmas again. Christmas, a good spirit in the air.